you as a business leader, you're pointing out that you are hiring Gen Zs right now. They are either the ones going into college right now or coming out of college right now, depending on the definition. But essentially, they're either part-time workers like my son who's 18, or these are people who come out of college ready for a job. So these attributes of Gen Z, they're critical for you to appreciate because that's your next group coming in.
Right. And something to keep in mind, too, that when we have these transitional generations, like even though I'm the last year of the boomers and you're early in Gen X, I have a lot of Gen X qualities. You probably have a lot of boomer qualities.
Mm-hmm.
As millennials go into Gen Z, and now Gen Z is coming in, they probably have some of those traits. But Gen Z also wants nothing to do with being called a millennial because of the lambasting that we have been doing, the unjust lambasting that we have been doing about millennials for the last 10 or 15 years or however long that we've been unjustly putting this group into the lazy and entitled category, which is the furthest thing from the truth that you can imagine.
Right. Let me talk about that a second. It's interesting. I was at a workshop where in fact, it was one that over the course of a couple of days where you and I were there at the same time. And I was sitting in the audience. So I'm in the back row and I'm sitting next to someone who's the vice president of HR for whatever company she worked at. And the presenter was talking about, oh, those millennials, it's exactly what you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have trouble with these people. And she leaned over and said to me, I wish people would just stop. And really, as you pointed out, there's, the Gen Zs, it's the greatest number of people, but they're not all in the workforce yet. The millennials is the biggest number generation in the workforce. Here's the vice president of HR and the speaker who was, kind of blasting millennials, as you just pointed out, was just repeating what we've all said. And I remember the first time that I had, about 20 years ago or so, actually not quite that long, about 15 or so, I had a radio program called the Institute of Success and Goal Achievement. And that was the first time that I had someone on talk about generations. Of course, there was no Z then, and the millennials was the new one just coming in to the workforce. And, we had in our conversation, as this person was talking about the attributes of a millennial, you don't know what it is yet, but here it comes. And, the problem with that, we don't know what it is, here it comes, it's going to be different, it's going to be difficult. That language never stopped, right?
Right.
And that's what you're pointing out here, and that's what this woman was so frustrated about. She is a vice president in a company because she's earned it through her skills and her ability to achieve, and now she's a decision maker, an executive. So, for all of you out there who are listening, you're probably in that group too, because the numbers, the raw numbers suggest the highest probability that you in your company are a millennial. So we're not talking about any of these generations as good or bad, et cetera. I want to just emphasize and stress what Lisa just said, because it is so important to appreciate we as human beings have something to offer. I'm different than Lisa. Lisa and I are different than people in other generations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about appreciating differences and then understanding how can we work within our set of skills and our strengths and our weaknesses and come together in a collaborative team.
But we process things differently. So where a Gen Z or Gen Xer who's been, playing with an iPad since they were 3 has a different understanding of technology than a boomer, then maybe it takes a little bit longer for them to understand the technology and they're afraid of it. So it's just, where we have one group of people that this is my life. I've never known life with a phone with a cord, and this generation over here going, what do you mean we're going to paperless?
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
a different way of doing business. But like I tell my audiences, unless you are willing to look at every single area of your business differently today than you did 10 years ago, you are really setting yourself up for failure. We have to think things that have never been thought before and be okay with the fact. I look at how much technology, and same thing with you, has changed in our lifetime, even in the last, since 1996 when I got my first, flip phone.
Right. Back then, a cloud was a white fluffy thing.
So it's just different. And if we can understand that from generation to generation, we're processing our world differently. And even though we've been complaining about generations literally since the beginning of time, today it really is different. Today the generations are different than they've ever been before. And that change is going to keep continuing.